I am here to talk about Africa. And when you look at this picture, you may be saying, wow, that's not the Africa I know. That's because it's not. What I've learned from traveling is that what you perceive and what you think sometimes is incorrect. Because when I first thought of Africa, I thought of tribal dances, I thought of war, I thought of famine, and I never really thought of what it was like to be an African, specifically the places that I visited, Kenya and Rwanda. This is a city in Africa, and this is one of the first things that I saw when I got off the plane in Nairobi. Something that was not the typical war-torn area or the typical mud huts that I had seen on the news and in the media. Poverty in Africa is a problem, but poverty in the U.S. also is a problem. When I look at these two pictures, of the U.S. and then look at the cities in Africa, what I see is infrastructure. I do not see poverty. I do not see wealth or poverty. All I see is a peoples who are living their lives just like you and me. And when people see the U.S., they see the Statue of Liberty and the Empire State Building. And what we see in Africa is poverty. And this is what I want to end. People thinking that if they're going to Africa, all they're going to see is poverty. Because if you jump right off the plane thinking, oh, well, these people, they're just not really doing well, I feel so bad for them, and block out the culture and beauty of the country that you're visiting, you are not going to be as involved with the heritage and history of the country that you are visiting. The stereotypes that I have heard are, wow, guys, how do people in Africa communicate? They probably don't have any phones or anything. That's really funny, to me anyway, because when I went there, I would have to say that I saw people doing the same things that we do on, I would say, a lot more dangerous roads. That's for sure. Another stereotype is that there's a lot of war in Africa. I mean, yeah, the news can show that. They show groups that are just really not healthy, happy human beings doing things that are really not helpful to their environment or to the people that they love. But, I mean, what I saw is friendship, and this is Father Felix. He was the person who made it so I would know and believe today that Africa is a place not only of poverty and of war, but of love and of a certain innocence that I can assure you the U.S. does not have. I feel like there are things that I learned, such as when I went into when I visited my first family in Africa, which was actually his. We went in, me, my sister, and my dad, and my mom, went in and visited his mom and dad, and they prepared a meal for us that was not like a meal that I had had before, but it was very good. But the thing that I remember most about that meal wasn't the food, but how even though the house wasn't big, wasn't very decked out with big TVs and video game consoles, but it had decorations that were so intricate and so beautiful that I started to realize that it doesn't matter the size of the house, it doesn't matter where the house is, it matters how the people in the house show their generosity and their appreciation for what they have. And I was also very interested in how they treated their guests. They seem to be a lot more interested in what I'm doing than talking about themselves. That culture difference was something that I have taken in personally and started to work on, because I feel like being self-centered is the stereotypical version of what they would think people from the U.S. are. And I want them to think that we are loving, kind, and not judgmental. I would like you all to realize that Africa is not just a continent of war and poverty, but a continent of love and joy. Thank you.